And then Mateo says, he jumps in and says, hey, he can channel demons. And I'm like, I look at Mateo like, what? And then I'm like, now I'm thinking, where is this going, right? Like, this is just completely strange. And I said, yeah, right. I was like, you can't, he doesn't channel demons. And then he tells me, yeah, yes, I can, right? Like he says it kind of assertively, like, yes, I can. Like, he can. And I said, okay. I said, well, show me. Let's do something right now. Show me, right? So it's just us three in the room. And then he says, all right. He's like, let's go in the backyard. And and when they say that, I'm kind of thinking, I've always kind of been a cautious person, kind of aware. And so I'm kind of like, okay, us three, like, I don't know this fool. First thing he says, he wants to kill somebody. Now they're saying, let's go in the backyard. And I know how the backyard is. Once you get past that first layer, like, so it goes out about 30 feet and there's stairs that go on the side of all the levels, right? Once you get past that first level on the stairs, whoever's in the house can't see you. As kids, his mom would yell at us. She would say, don't go past the first level. And we'd always go down there. She'd start yelling, get up here. And we'd run back up the stairs. So you're on your own. Once you're past that first level, there's no help. No one can see you, right? So I'm like, okay, let's go in the backyard because I don't want to act scared and shit. I'm like, okay, like, I can handle myself. Like, I go to punk shows, push people around. I've been to fights. Like, let's go, right? And again, I'm not a little kid. It's not like, they always say when kids see things, they're like, you're a kid. You don't know what you saw. Like, I know exactly what's going on around me, right? So we go on the side of the stairs, and I'm just following them. And then we happen to go all the way down to the last level, right? And it's crazy because as all these nostalgic things are happening, the time that I fell down, or we went down there and I fell and crashed into the tree, like I hadn't been there since I was 10 years old. So just all these memories are flooding my head, right? We're going down there. We get to the last level, right? So we all come in there. I go further. So the stairs are on the right side to go back to the house. I go to the furthest left, right? And then Mateo is on the right side, and the Filipino guy's in the middle of us, right? So I'm just thinking, in my head, I'm thinking, this is crazy. Like, he literally thinks he can channel demons, like, So he had this stone, like this thin tablet, right, with the pentagram carved in it, So he puts that down, right?
It was a stone,
like it was like a paver stone, like
okay.
Like a flat stone, like a square type deal, and in the middle there's a pentagram etched into it, right? So, and again, that last level is maybe from the wall to the edge where it drops is maybe like 20 feet or something, right? So in the middle, he puts it right about 10 feet or so. He puts, from the back wall, he puts that thing down, he puts a candle in the middle and he lights it, right? And then, so I'm just watching him do this and I'm thinking like, okay, just, whatever, just see what he does. And then he walks over to the edge and he puts his hands out like this, right? And so I'm looking at him, and we're all kind of standing next to the edge, and then he's just and I'm kind of like 1 foot sideways like this, and he's right here next to me, and Mateo's on the other side of him, and he's facing out towards the edge, like he's just facing out into the open space, right? And he has his hands up, and he's saying like what you would see in a horror movie, like some kind of weird language, some tongues, like just some foreign shit, like no language I've ever heard, like just some weird kind of tongues, right? I don't know. Yeah, just like you'd see in a horror movie, right? And again, I'm a horror enthusiast, so this sounds like some kind of speaking in tongues type shit. And he's doing all this stuff, and then he stops and he says, I can see them.
We're going to get into that shit, all right?
Okay, let's do it. Let's get into it.
So, a couple of months back, you and I had an opportunity. We worked together.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And while we were working, we were outside.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a pretty good conversation.
Yeah.
We talked about dreams.
Yep.
We talked about ghosts.
Yeah.
We even saw a fucking UFO.
Yes, we did. We'll get into that.
We did, right? It was something.
Dude, it was something, man. Unexplainable.
All right.
Yeah.
Because you tell people that, and they look at you like,
I know.
But
even the people we were there with.
Together.
Yes, we did. That was it, dude. Okay. Amazing experience. I'll never forget that.
And you told me a story.
Yes, so that led into the story that I told you when I became a believer in something more than just the physical world that we see, right? Because growing up, so I grew up, my background was Catholic. My grandmother would go to church every week religiously. My parents, and I'm Catholic, identify as Catholic, but I don't, I'm more like my parents. Church and Easter only, like what do they call them, CEOs? Christmas and Easter only or whatever, right?
Wait, what is that? That's a thing?
What, CEO? You never heard that? You're a CEO Catholic. They'll make fun of you and say, you only go on Easter and Christmas, or Christmas and Easter. And so, but my wife, now that we have kids, she wants them. We've been more times because she's like, she wants to instill, religion in them or whatever. And to me, it's like, as my mind's grown in these concepts, we talked about how now I'm a big believer in consciousness, that we're just vessels for consciousness, right? And there is something bigger and greater than us. And again, when I'm on the motorcycle or I'm doing something that is dangerous, I'm thinking, of course, none of us want to die, but because the fear is this, right? What if you die? What happens? People fear that. But knowing that, now I'm more solidified in the belief that there is something more than us, that we're just a vessel. It gives me some kind of peace of mind that if I die, this is not it, that we return to wherever our consciousness gets recycled somehow, So I like that thought. Again, I find comfort in Catholicism just because I grew up with Catholicism, you know what I'm saying? And so that would just kind of define my life being young. Again, being in South Amani a lot, my grandma, we would go to church with her, you know what I mean? And then my parents, my mom would always try to make an effort. My dad, he's not a religious person at all. He just goes to my mom, kind of push the issue, right? So kind of same thing. I don't really care to go, but like my wife kind of pushed the issue, so we go. But that's where I find comfort, because I never, in my life, how do I connect with God? It's through prayer, you know what I mean? Or talking to God. I went through, obviously catechism and through the whole process, and you go through the whole Catholic program. And so that just is, to this day, it's just a kind of comfort to me. You know what I mean? It's like but expanding my knowledge. So, yeah, okay, you go to these classes, for in church and whatever, and the youth group there, you'd hear all this stuff about God and spirits and ghosts, and yeah, okay, it sounds great, but like, is it real? Is it not? Like, you only kind of can compute in your mind what you see around you in the physical world. So these are kind of concepts and I loved always, and I told you I had that aunt, her name was Diane, right? Diana. And when I was small, she would always give me these books about alien UFOs. So I was really always I was always a believer in UFOs. And my mom and dad hated it because they don't believe in none of that shit at all, right? They're like, your aunt's crazy. So birthdays, I still have those books, man. Like, just about abductions, and I love that stuff. And at a young age, I've always been I love, my favorite genre to this day is horror. Mm-hmm. I think it's my older cousins. I remember going to see Nightmare on Elm Street, the different ones in theaters, and just, all that, Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween and all this stuff, right? Friday the 13th. Dude, I love all those, right? So I just love that kind of stuff. I like the slasher stuff, and then I like the alien stuff, just that spooky stuff, right? But again, not a big believer in ghosts and spirits and all that stuff, right? But I was a believer in aliens. So that was kind of my gateway into the paranormal stuff, right? And so, yeah, you hear all this stuff in church about God and spirits and all this stuff, angels, and I just don't really believe it that much, right? I go to church just because, right? And then, so my mom, so just a little background on the story,
because I've told this story to a couple of people.
Cool,
but
cool.
I'm probably telling it wrong, dog.
Okay. Yeah,
so that's why
it's like the game of telephone, right? You hear it, and then
let's get this motherfucker on record, because it's a crazy.
And I've always wanted to get it on record, bro. So it's good.
Crazy,
it's
dog.
Good. Yeah. So, So okay. So just a little background on the story, right? My mom, she, where she worked, she had her best friend's name was Carol. So my mom's name is Grace. Her best friend Carol. They both had sons. Obviously, right, and then Carol, her son's name was Mateo. We were about the same age, right? So, just we were 4, 5, 6, whatever. We're growing up. I'm going to his house. He's going to my house for birthday parties, whatever. And then there are times when I would spend the night over his house, right? So as we're like 7, 8, 9, years old, whenever I went over his house, it was like all his friends from school. So I didn't know anybody, but I wasn't an outsider. I'm a very social person, so we're all talking. But I remember at night, right, like we'd be in the sleeping bags. There was a couple of times where it kind of freaked me out because they were playing the Ouija board, and then, you're pushing it, and it's moving and giving answers. And then at night we'd be in his room. We're all in our sleeping bags, right? And he would say, he lived in this creepy old house. It's somewhere in LA. One of my best friends, when I told him the story, we looked it up on Google Maps. I described the area and he found it, and I was like, that's it, man. That's Anyway, so it's somewhere in the hills in LA, right?
Is it like an old house?
Old house. And the crazy thing is, I remember growing up, going to this house forever. So my dad, for his work, right? His company gave him a vehicle. It was so it was this freaking huge bus, dude, like a bus. So that was our family transportation. It was like this van bus, right? It seated like 16 people. It was insane, right? So going to Carol's house. So her husband was Bill. So going to Bill and Carol's house, when you turn on their street, as you're going up, it becomes very narrow and it drops off. There's a cliff on the front side, and then in their backyard. So their backyard would maybe go out maybe 20, 30 feet, drop down about 10 feet, go out, because their backyard is on a hillside, right? So it has like these levels where it, it goes out, 20 feet and then down 10 feet, then out and down. There's maybe about 5 levels or something like that. On the last level, it's just a drop. It's just a sheer, as a kid, we hiked down there one time and lost control, and I slammed into a tree and I could barely get back up, and it just freaked me out. I remember that I was out of control. I hit a tree, my hand went through it, and when I pulled it out, it was covered in these little black bugs, and they were jumping everywhere like fleas. Like they were just jumping everywhere, and I was shaking them off, and I was scrambling to get back up to the top, and it was really steep, and I'm sliding on all these rocks and leaves, right? And then I reach up, and then one of the kids a couple kids, we helped each other up, and I'm like, man, so it's just a drop. So
that's important. That's important to the story.
It is. There's
nothing down there.
There's nothing down there,
and it's hard to get down there. And it's hard to get
there's
out.
a couple trees. Like there's a bunch of trees, so you can't. It's hard to see through the tree line, but it's a very steep drop. Like, you know what I mean? So and then on the front of their house, it's a steep drop. So my dad would take this bus, man, and so the end of the street, there's maybe 15 houses, 20 houses, and they're big, old properties. I mean, old. I mean, super old properties. So. And this street was barely wide enough to even one car's width, maybe like a car and a half's width, right? So people have to park in their driveways as narrow. And then I remember as a kid being freaked out because when you look to the right side, so all the houses on the street are on the left side, on the left, right? On the right, it's just a drop, right? A small railing, like almost nothing, right? As a kid, I would look and be like, oh my God, like that is a drop. Like it's as a kid, I remember being scared. And I'm thinking, how is my dad doing it in a freaking van bus, right?
The drive up to this kid's
path,
as
you're going up,
your heart is already beating fast.
You're
already like fucking scared because
I hated
of the cliff.
I hated the drive up there.
Hey, but your dad was a fucking physician,
dude,
dog.
I have a story about that you can't even believe. But so my dad. So at the end of the street, there's a circle that is it's barely big enough for like a Honda Civic to you have to make it because the street's so narrow, you can't make a U-turn to get back. If you're trying to get back out of that street, you have to go all the way down to the end. There's a circle that you can make a U-turn in, right? And then come back down. Mm-hmm. So that's how narrow the street is. So as you're going up and up and up, right? It gets steeper and steeper. And then their house is maybe 3 or 4 houses from the last house, right? So my dad would take this bus all the way up and I was the oldest of 6. So, there's all of us are piled in here, and we'd go up. And then I remember the way this thing was so long, my dad had to go. And then as he's turning it, right, at some point he can't make the full turn. So he has to back up. And I remember the back would hang off the cliff, like the part of it would hang off. And then he would just, he was a beast, dude. And then he would maneuver this thing and then come back down the street and just find a spot. Steve. I'm a junior.
Steve,
yeah.
Steve was a physician with that bus.
Oh my God, dude. So at the end, remind me, I have a story about that bus. He told me years later, dude. So anyway, so then he would pull in the driveway. So they had this really long driveway and stuff, right? And then people could pull in it, whatever. But I think he would just park on the street or whatever, and he would have to back it up, move. People were wiggling in. So anyways, so that's the kind of the background is, there's cliffs on both sides, right? In the backyard, there's levels. So I grew up going to this house, and then Mateo would tell us, and
Mateo was the kid.
Mateo was the kid.
Okay.
He told us, how his mom would tell him. So they acquired this house it used to belong to a milkman, right? I guess he was coming home drunk one night and his milk truck went over the cliff, rolled down, he died. As kids on that side, it's steep, but we would hike down there. You can kind of there's an area where you can hike down, and there's still remnants of that milk truck. When I was 9 or 10, there was still remnants of that truck around, right? There was I believe we found a milk bottle one time, all kinds of stuff, right? And just, all kinds of trash and debris down there. But
that was a true story.
That was a true story. It was verified by his mom. She told us oh yeah, the milkman died. So it was a known thing. They got it from this old milkman. And it's crazy, right? Because he would just deliver milk. That was his job. And then I guess who knows what the story was. Maybe it passed the family member to family member, and then eventually Kara and Bill bought it. So Mateo would tell us. So again, we're in his room, a bunch of his friends and me, sleeping bags. And he would tell us that there's spirits roaming the halls and all this stuff, right? So it was a very old house and very creaky, right? So outside of his room, it was just like it was like this hallway that led to a living room, and it was just darkness, right? You could see to a certain point, and there was just darkness. And I remember this one story he told us when we were kids that always stuck in my head, is he said, this floating head would always visit him. I'm like, what? And he said that it would come into the room floating, and it would stay at the head of his bed. And when he told me that, we're all like talking shit, like, yeah, right. But, they tell you that, and then you're just kind of freaked out.
How old are you?
About 7 or 8
So
this time.
everybody in there is about 7 or 8.
Yeah, we're all like 7 or 8.
Mateo, who's telling you guys
telling us about
the fucking dead milkman.
Yeah, the dead milkman.
And that a head visits him at night.
Yes, and you would hear, so I remember because I had done several sleepovers over the years, and I remember just being in the sleeping bag, and then everyone started falling asleep, and I'm so freaked out in my mind. And for some reason, he would always leave the door open, right? His room was always open, so it was like I could see down like a certain point, and then it was just darkness, and I could hear like creaking. Like I don't know if the old house was settling, but in my head at that kid age, I was terrified just to look to my right down the hallway because it sounds like someone's walking around. And I'm like, what is that fucking creaking? It'll keep me up all night. And then him telling me the floating head story, I just kept thinking, if I look that way, I'm going to see a head just coming through that. And that's it. I'm dead. I'm going to freak out. Yeah. So, right. So, and then there was a couple of times where his buddies we'd play the Ouija board.
What would you do if you had to take a piss?
Oh, dude, there were times. I would just hold it. I was like, there's just no way. There's just no way, dude. Dude, I was like, no way in hell. That house terrified me. So and then he had a door in his backyard, so he had a door that came into his room from the main house, and then he had a door in his room that led to like a porch that had stairs that went down into his backyard, right? So, so that's just a little background on that, right? It's like, so
and you guys
I grew up with this
the Ouija
kid.
board at that age?
Yeah. So we were 8 or 9. I remember going to one of his parties.
Do you remember what type of questions you guys would be asking?
They were just talking to spirit, asking yes and no questions. And I forget. I don't remember any specifics. I just remember being kind of freaked out about it. I never knew what a Ouija board was. That was the first time I ever even got exposed to a Ouija. I'm like, what is this, right? And then Mateo was telling us, oh, you can talk to spirits and shit.
So he was already into that.
So he was into that. At a young age. At a young age, yeah. And so, and there was always something off about him. I mean, maybe in this day you'd say he's like, I guess autistic in a way. I mean, he was high functioning. He was like a kid, but I always had this feeling he was kind of strange. Like when it was just me and him, all his friends would go home, and I'd be waiting for my parents to pick me up. We have maybe 2, 3, 4 hours to kill. His parents would take us to the movies sometimes. We'd come back. We're in his room, and he was really into drawing comics, so I'm like, cool. So we would come up with panels and then draw characters and write little things, what's going on for them. And then he would look at me and go, like, he would show me his after we would show each other what we wrote or drew, he'd be like, he would look me in the eyes and go, this is cool, right? I said, oh yeah, it's cool, man. He's like, you like it? It's cool, right? Yeah, right? And I'm like look at me, like, and it would give me this kind of weird feeling, like why is he...
would say no.
Yeah.
Maybe he'd be like, nah.
I don't even want to imagine. But it was kind of like, you have those weirdos kind of, they look you in the eye, and they're like, and they ask you like, yeah, right? You like it? What do you like about it? Oh yeah, like intense. And I'm so I didn't think, it would kind of just give me a weird feeling sometimes, but it wouldn't freak me out. He was a strange dude, right? He's a strange dude. So anyway, so this continued. Like I said, he was one of those people I would see constantly growing up because our mothers were best friends. And then maybe like about maybe 10 years old or something, I didn't see him for a long period of time. So, my mom, who knows why? Maybe she switched jobs. Or I never even asked her why, but we just never saw Carol and Bill, never went to their house, never saw Mateo until I was about 15. So now I'm not a little kid, right? You're 15. You know what's going on around you. You know what's happening, right? So my mom tells me, hey, we're going to Carol and Bill's house. And I'm thinking, damn, I haven't been there since I was a kid, since I was like 10. So I was kind of interested. Everything's the same way. That freaking drive is terrifying, everything, right? So we get to the house. There's tons of people in there. There's party going on. I forget. It was probably Carol's birthday. I don't even remember. So we're social. And then she says, so I go in the house. She said, oh, hey, so Mateo's in his room, I go say hi to him. I'm like, okay, cool. I go in the room. Right. And this time, at that time, I'm already into punk. Right. Mm-hmm. So I had like mohawks. I was dyeing my hair green and all kinds of stuff.
How were you?
I didn't know about hardcore
day?
At this point.
How were you that day?
I can't even remember. Okay. But I know I was heavily into punk rock. One of the things I despise being into punk rock is because there was like this thing at my high school where it's like the punkers would hang together. And like I told you, I had that group of friends I would go to shows with. This is like right before I got into hardcore. So I'm just all punked out. I had this little bracelet with spikes on it. You know what I'm saying? I had the jacket with the patches. And there was a group at my high school that were goths. So one of the friends I had in my freshman year, right? It was like, So yeah, you start high school about 14. So we were about 14 when we met, right? I was into punk and he was into like just regular rock. When we turned 15, so we're sophomores. That next year, I got really heavy into punk and met that group. And we were best friends in our freshman year. And he got heavy with the goths. So it kind of caused a rift between us and we just stopped talking. But it was like that. It was like the punks and the goths didn't like each other, right? So I didn't like goths at all. They dressed in black, had black lipstick, I painted black fingernails, all that stuff. Wear dresses and weird shit sometimes, black dresses, the guys. It's just weird shit. Not down with it, right? To this day, I don't like it, right? So it's just one of those things. So I go to Mateo's room. Lo and behold, this fool's all gothed out. All gothed out, right? All in black fingernails, right? And
what did you think, dog?
Damn.
When you saw it, what did you say?
Yeah.
Like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, I was like, this motherfucker. I was like, that's how he went? Not surprising, though, because those guys tend to be into all that satanic stuff, and they cut themselves, and the 666 and their hand, whatever, all that stuff, right? So I'm like, hey, what's up, Mateo? Right? I'm still friendly. I'm not going to act in any kind of way. And I'm like, what's up? And, we high five and whatever. And then
how was his room?
That's a good question. I can't even remember, dude. I mean, I know he had a lot of posters on the walls. He had a big window. So we walk in his bed straight ahead. He has a big window like behind his bed. And it just, I don't remember anything. Nothing specifically stands out, like as far as like, but he just had posters like any kid would have on the walls and stuff. So I'm talking to him, and there's another dude there that looks about our age range, and he like a Filipino guy, all gothed out, right, all in black and all this stuff, wearing like little choke chains or whatever they wear, that stuff. And he introduced me to the guy. I can't even remember the guy's name, but so he introduced me, Filipino guy, and then strange as shit because I'll never forget this, man. So I'm like, hey man, what's up? I'm Steve, right? We shake hands, and then he doesn't know me. We don't know each other. First thing out of his mouth, not, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. First thing out of his mouth is, you know what my dream is? And I said, what's that? And he's looking me dead in the eyes. And he says, I want to kill somebody. And I'm like, okay. And I look at Mateo. I'm kind of like, and I was like, okay, like, what is that? Like, how are you going to do that? Right. It just kind of caught me off guard. And then Mateo jumped in and said, yeah, he wants to be a sniper in the military. I said, oh, okay, you want to be a sniper? He's like, yeah. And but the whole time he's talking, he's looking me in the eyes. And then, weirdest way to start a conversation, right?
Do you think he did that bullshit on purpose just to get a reaction out of you?
Maybe, right?
Motherfucker.
But again, looking just tells me that shit, like, right? And at that age, you're kind of like, you feel like somebody. You're not a little kid, right? So you kind of test each other, you know what I mean? Like, how it is that age. Anyway, so then Mateo again. So Mateo's the one kind of jumping in for him, right? He says, oh, yeah, he wants to be a sniper. He didn't tell me that. Mateo told me that. So I was just, and then he kind of backs it up. Yeah, he's, I want to be a sniper. I said, oh, okay, that's cool. I said, you want to go to the military? Like, I'm just trying to start a conversation. And then Mateo says, he jumps in and says, hey, he can channel demons. And I'm like, I look at Mateo like, what? And then I'm like, now I'm thinking, where's this going, right? Like, this is just completely strange. And I said, yeah, right. I was like, you can't, he doesn't channel demons. And then he tells me, yeah, yes, I can, right? Like, he says it kind of assertively, like, yes, I can. Like, he can. And I said, okay. I said, well, show me. Let's do something right now. Show me, right? So it's just us three in the room. And then he says, all right. He's like, let's go in the backyard. And and when they say that, I'm kind of thinking, I've always kind of been a cautious person, kind of aware. And so I'm kind of like, okay, us three, like, I don't know this fool. First thing he says, he wants to kill somebody. Now they're saying, let's go in the backyard. And I know how the backyard is. Once you get past that first layer, like, so it goes out about 30 feet and there's stairs that go on the side of all the levels, right? Once you get past that first level on the stairs, whoever's in the house can't see you. As kids, his mom would yell at us. She would say, don't go past the first level. And we'd always go down there. She'd start yelling, get up here. And we'd run back up the stairs. So you're on your own. Once you're past that first level, there's no help. No one can see you, right? So I'm like, okay, let's go in the backyard because I don't want to act scared and shit. I'm like, okay, like, I can handle myself. Like, I go to punk shows, push people around. I've been to fights. Like, let's go, right? And again, I'm not a little kid. It's not like, they always say when kids see things, they're like, you're a kid. You don't know what you saw. Like, I know exactly what's going on around me, right? So we go on the side of the stairs, and I'm just following them. And then we happen to go all the way down to the last level, right? And it's crazy because as all these nostalgic things are happening, the time that I fell down, or we went down there and I fell and crashed into the tree, like I hadn't been there since I was 10 years old. So just all these memories are flooding my head, right? We're going down there. We get to the last level, right? So we all come in there. I go further. So the stairs are on the right side to go back to the house. I go to the furthest left, right? And then Mateo is on the right side, and the Filipino guy's in the middle of us, right? So I'm just thinking, in my head, I'm thinking, this is crazy. Like, he literally thinks he can channel demons, like, you know. So so he had this stone, like this thin tablet, right, with the pentagram carved in it, you know. So he puts that down, right.
It was a stone?
Like it was like, you know, like a paver stone, like, you know, like a flat stone, like a square type deal, and in the middle there's a pentagram etched into it, right. So, and again, you know, that last level is maybe from the wall to the edge where it drops is maybe like 20 feet or something, right? So in the middle, he puts it, right, about 10 feet or so. He puts, you know, from the back wall, he puts that thing down, he puts a candle in the middle and he lights it, right? And then, so I'm just watching him do this and I'm thinking like, okay, just, you know, whatever, just see what he does. And then he walks over to the edge and he puts his hands out like this, right? And so I'm looking at him and we're all kind of standing next to the edge, and then he's just, and I'm kind of like 1 foot sideways like this, and he's right here next to me, and Mateo's on the other side of him, and he's facing out towards the edge, like he's just facing out into the open space, right? And he has his hands up, and he's saying, he has his hands up, and he's saying like what you would see in a horror movie, like some kind of weird language, some tongues, like just some foreign shit, like no language I've ever heard, like just some weird kind of tongues, right? I don't know. Yeah, just like you'd see in a horror movie, right? And again, I'm a horror enthusiast, so this sounds like some kind of speaking in tongues type shit. And he's doing all this stuff, and then he stops, and then he says, "I can see them." And then I was like, and again, I don't trust him at this point. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if they're trying to set me up. So I just kind of look over the edge, and I'm looking down, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, I don't see anything, bro. You know, I don't see anything. And then he's like, I said, what do they look like? And then he said, just like you would think a demon would look like. They have wings, claws. You know, he starts kind of describing them. Wings, claws, all this stuff. And I'm looking, I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't see anything, you know? And at this point I'm thinking, this is just stupid, right? So I take a step back and he's not saying anything, but he has his hands up. And then he said, what I'm saying is a spell to keep them back. They want to harm, he said, they want to harm us, but what I'm saying is keeping them back. And then I give a little peek over again. I said, okay. And I'm just taking this in, what he's saying. And I'm just thinking, he's full of shit. So I step back, and then he's just remains in position, hands up. And then I'm just thinking, like, this is bullshit. And then all of a sudden, a little pebble comes over. I hear it hit the ground. Like maybe it's a little pebble, right? Boom. And then another one. Boom, boom. And then one hit my chest. And then I was like, what the hell? Right? And then all of a sudden, hundreds just start shooting up from the edge of that, you know. And we're just being showered by them, dude. Just boom, 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 boom. Just tons. Like they're going like, so they're coming from over the edge and then curving and then coming at us. And just tons of them are coming, right? I mean, in my mind, it feels like hundreds. I mean, just, I'm being hit. And I'm like shielding my face like this. And I'm like, I remember saying, yo, what's going on, dude? I was like, you know, my brain was trying to, at that point, I was freaked out. That freaked me out. I was trying to rationalize stuff. And you know, there's those times in your life where you say something, you don't know why you're saying it. It's like your brain's trying to figure shit out and your mouth is just saying something, right? And I remember saying very clearly, even though I rationally know this cannot be true, I'm like, what is happening? I'm like, you guys have someone down there. And as I'm saying it, I know there's no one down there. And then even if, how many people would have to be down there for hundreds of pebbles to be coming over, right? And then not only that, but like just the way they're arcing towards us, right? And I remember saying that, and then all of a sudden, everything stopped.
What was Mateo doing?
So he was just, that's a good question. I was so freaked out. I was just trying to compute what's happening in my head. And I don't know what he was doing on the other side. Like he was just on the other side of the dude, right? But I remember looking at them, and the dude still had his hands up this whole time. And then Mateo was just over there, just standing, you know, where he was standing. So it wasn't doing anything, right? He wasn't smiling or anything. They were just there. And then everything stopped. And now all of a sudden I'm like, and then as we're there in the quiet, right? Everything stopped. And again, that stone, whatever it is, tablet or whatever, stone, whatever you want, paver, right? It's like 10 feet behind us, right? All the little pebbles stopped. And all of a sudden in that quiet moment, right? A single rock, a large rock comes over that cliff edge, right? And it hit the candle off that pentagram, right? That was in the, boom, knocked it down. At that point, I was like, I told him, I'm done, bro. I'm done. I want to go back up. I remember telling him very specifically, hey, I'm done. I was so freaked out. And then, okay, let's go back up. So, okay, cool. And at this point, I'm so freaked out trying to rationalize stuff that I just don't even trust them. I don't even want to be near them. I don't want to get nowhere near that cliff. I'm like, so I had stepped back like 3 or 4 feet at that time, and I was just freaked out, right? So then, so they're in front, I told them, hey, you guys go in front of me. Like, I don't want anybody behind me, because at this point, I'm just completely, like, my adrenaline is going full force, and I'm just like ready to fight or flight. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, you guys walk in front of me. So he picks up his shit. He picks up the candle and the tablet or the stone, and they start going up the stairs, and I'm right behind. I'm last, right? So there's just a sheer cliff behind me, right? So now we're like right when we're about to get to that. So we're about to exit the last layer. We're about to get to the next layer. Right at that moment where that wall is at, right? The stairs are here, and it meets the stairs meet that wall, the first layer. I feel a rock, a little pebble, hit me dead center in the back of the head. Like, I'll never forget that moment, because as soon as it hit me, just straight fear. Like, I just remember this feeling came over me, and all the hairs on my arm, I remember, stood up. This chill came over me, and fear hit me, and I started running. I pushed both of them to the side and just sprinted all the way up the stairs, and I didn't stop until I got in his room. The one thing I was like, when that hit me, I remember thinking, I'm not looking back. Like, I'm going. It was like fight or flight. I'm flighting, dude. Like, it was, and the crazy way that the pebble hit me, the way I try to describe it to people is full control. Like, it was so accurate, so precise that it's like, and it didn't hit me like boom. It didn't hit me hard. It hit me as if someone was maybe like 2 feet behind me, and it just went like this. Boom. That's it. Just boom. There's no way. The amount of force, if it had come from that cliff, I mean the edge, right, to hit me on the head, I mean, that would have been some force. This felt like someone was like right behind me and just was fucking with me. Just went boop, and I'll never forget. Dead center in the back of my head, bro. Dead center, it hit me. And I was just like, instantly fear shot through my body. And I remember looking at my arm, and all the hairs were standing up. And boom, I just took off running. I was like, if I look back and see some shit, I will be forever like fucked up in the head. And so I just ran, right? And when I got to his room, I was just I was like, that was when I was finally starting to calm down. And I was just like feeling my heartbeat. And then they got into the room with me. And I remember being so excited, like fear and excitement. It was a combination. And I told him, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? And then Mateo was like, I told you. And I was like, and at that time, again, I was big into like alien shit. And at that time, that show, what was it called?
Ancient Aliens?
No, there was a show on TV. Anyway, it was like some kind of paranormal investigation show. And I told him, Sightings. It was called Sightings. And I said, and they would do like alien stuff, paranormal stuff. And I said, dude, you got to call Sightings. You have to call Sightings and get them over here, man. That's some shit. I remember saying that, like, dude, you got to call Sightings. Like, that, what was that? Like, what was that? And I remember both of them. Mateo was like just smiling, dude. And the guy was like just, and that's the thing, him, no emotion. From the time I met him, when he said, I want to kill someone, his face was always, when we were down there, he was doing the shit. When we were up back in the room, he never showed emotion. He was just like, that's all. He's like nodded. And Mateo was like, I told you. He's laughing and smiling. Like, I told you. And I was like, what the F was that, dude? What was that? So it was at that moment in my life.
Was that kid's parents there?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I have no idea.
What if that kid was a fucking ghost?
There's so many questions I have.
What if that kid was a fucking ghost? Dude, I mean, that was Mateo's fucking imaginary friend that you were able to see. Oh my God.
Dude, I never thought about that. But like, you hear stories like that. Yeah. I mean, damn, like, what if no one was there? What if he was just, man, oh man, like, yeah. Dude, there are so many questions I have about that day.
What if Mateo conjured that demon, and that demon,
right?
What if Mateo was the puppet master?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And he was like, hey, that was the demon that he conjured.
Yeah.
And then he was like, hey, like he had that guy there, that demon there, for you to meet, and you met his fucking demon, bro.
Yeah. I mean, dude, there's so many questions about that day that I have, right? Because again, there was a gap from when I was 10 to 15 where I didn't see this dude, right? So who knows what he got into and what he was doing? Who knows? And
he obviously got into some fucking shit.
Yeah. And so that freaked me out that day, right? But at that moment in my life, that was the first time in my life where it was crystal clear that there is something that instantly made me a believer. There is something in this world that we can't see that does exist. And whatever it is it from another realm, other dimension? Is it angels and demons? Like whatever people want to say it is, there is something. At that moment, I knew that, because here's the thing. I always believed in aliens. I wasn't so much into like, I liked hearing ghost stories because I was into the horror stuff. So, but I never really like, okay, like people talk about the stuff, but I don't really, okay, it's kind of like an unknown in my head. I don't really care too much. Like, you know, I hear the stuff in church about angels and demons and hell and all this stuff, right? But I was always a big believer in aliens. But aliens were more believable to me because the experiences people had, abductions and UFOs, it's a very physical thing. It's a very rational thing in your head to think the universe is so big, there's got to be something else out there, and maybe they are visiting us. It just, the logic seems to me very clear. Like, yeah, they're aliens, they're physical beings, but to think of something else that's like spiritual, you can't see, that's an evil entity, invisible. That was like, I don't know, I don't believe in that. I mean, I like to hear the stories. I've always liked stories and horror movies about ghosts and demons, all this stuff, but until that moment, I was like, that made me 100% believer that there is something else in this world besides the physical world we see. Like there is something else, right? Like I said, I have so many questions about that
one
day.
One of those guys, whether it be Mateo, what was his name?
Where are they?
Filipino kid, what was his name?
I don't even remember. See, that's another question I would have. So here's the thing. So it freaked me out so bad, that story, right? So anyways, my life went on. I remember being freaked out and just thinking about it for like weeks after, dude.
You never spoke to Mateo after that.
No.
And that's it. That was it.
And so, that's what I'm getting to, right? So and then I go back to high school, right? So that happened and I'm just in disbelief. I'm on the way home. I remember just thinking about it, still being freaked out. Like, dude, I remember like getting back in the van, or not in the van, but I forget what vehicle we had at that time. We didn't have the van anymore, that bus van, but whatever vehicle I came in, I forget. But just, I didn't even want to look over the cliff edge because now we're going back down the street. So that cliff edge in the front of the house is to our left. And I remember I didn't even want to look over that cliff because that freaked me out on that side, the back side, because all those houses had that drop on the back. And then the front of the house, I didn't even want to look down there, dude. I was just, at this point, I'm like, just get me the fuck off this street. You know what I mean? But thinking about it for weeks after. But then, you go to high school. I had a girlfriend at the time, you're hanging out with them, like life moves on, you have prom and you're worried about getting grades in school and life goes on. But there's always, every now and then, that it would come back to my head, this story, right? So, so years later, I was thinking about it. I might be in college at this time, right?
Hey, I love you too, boy.
It's like my son, dude. That's funny. So, at some point, I was probably in college or something, right? Just a thought occurred to me, like, I never followed up on it. I was so freaked out, I didn't even want to think about the house anymore or Mateo. At some point, I asked my mom, I said, we were talking one day at the house. I said, hey, whatever happened to, you don't talk to Carol anymore? She said, no, I don't talk to Carol. I'm like, whatever happened to Mateo? And she said, the last she heard, he was having mental problems and he ended up in a mental institution and he was there for years, right? Carol was saying he was struggling in there. And so the last I knew now from information from my mother, he was in a mental institution, and is he still there to this day? Is he out? I have no idea. Maybe because I know where their house is. And the funny thing is, like, dude, so my current job assignment right now, I was in the field with one of my partners and, he said, hey, let's go to Gelco's in Highland Park. So this house is somewhere out that way, right? My partner, my buddy at work, when I told him this story, he said, all right, what do you remember as a kid? And I said, I remember it was somewhere near Highland Park. It was some hill, some type of area, right? There was like a valley. So you could, in his backyard, when it went down, right? So when you got to that last level and you went to that edge, that cliff, it was a very pretty sheer drop, right? A lot of trees, right? And then at some point it went back up. You couldn't see where it came back. But on the other side, there was another side of a hill or a mountain, and you could see a road and cars passing by far away. Mm. So I described this kind of area to him.
The 110 freeway.
Yeah, the one like near there. So I said, I remember as a kid being on the 110, right? And so Caesar, my buddy, my partner from work, he was like, he started Google mapping shit, and I described what it looked like, and he started zooming on different areas, and he found a street where the houses are on the left side in layers, and then he street viewed it. I'm like, that's the house, bro. He found it. I said, look, that's where this experience happened, right there. He found it on Google Maps, So anyways, because when I told him this story, he was like just blown away, right? And then so one day we're in the field, and he's like, we're seeing one of our clients in Highland Park, and he's like, "Hey man, let's go to Gelco's." I'm like, "Cool man, we haven't been there a long time. It's a sandwich spot that has all these sodas. Like it's a cool spot, Gelco's, right?" We're there. As we're approaching, lo and behold, Bill comes out.
Shut the fuck up.
Mateo's father. Mateo's father. And I'm like, "Yo, Bill, what's up?" And he's like, "Hey." And like, I was like, just like, you know, but it was just a quick interaction because he was on his way out, and we were like going, I said, "Hey," and he's like, "Oh man, you know," he was like, I told him, "Yeah, you know what I do for work," and we are just kind of catching up for a few moments. And I said, "Man, it was good to see you." And he's like, "Yeah, good to see you too," you know. And then he left, and I was, thinking, damn, I should have asked him about like Mateo and different things. Even afterwards, my boy was, and I was just so shocked to see Bill. I was like, these things just didn't occur in my head, you know. But knowing that they're still around that area, I could drive to that house like today and like find out what's happening with Mateo. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because there's a curiosity in me still. Even my boy Caesar was like, "Dude, you should find out. Like, talk to him." I said, I would like to eventually see if I could track him down one of these days or years, and just like and get his recounting of the story. You know what I'm saying? Because I know exactly how I remember it. I remember how freaked out I was. You know what I'm saying? And like ask him questions that I have. Who was that guy? What was his name? Are you still friends with him? Where is he at now? Like, you know, how did you meet him?
Let's get him on the podcast.
Right? Yeah. I mean, dude, yeah, if I could track it down, we'll do that, dude. But he was a very strange dude, and like it didn't surprise me that he was in a mental institution. My mom told me that. I said, "Oh shit." He was mentally unstable. There was times when I remember he was adopted. I forgot about that. He was adopted. So I don't know what his background is, but so Carol and Bill had tried for years and years to have a son. And then they adopted him when he was like, I don't know, 3 or 4, you know what I'm saying? And then they had tried. They were still, you know, they're married, right? And at some point she got pregnant. Carol got pregnant. When they tried for years and couldn't, they thought she was unable to. She got pregnant. Then they had a daughter. Her name was Maya. So Mateo hated her, dude. I remember he would talk a lot of shit, and then we'd be like walking like somewhere, like say in the kitchen, he would shove her into like fucking furniture and like really hurt her, dude. And then my mom had told me that like he attacked her a few times, and it was very concerning for Carol because she was seeing this violence in Mateo, you know. And like I said, he was a very strange dude. Like even like when I was there, you know, at his house for sleepovers, there was something just strange about him. You know what I'm saying?
Sounds like Michael Myers,
dude. Yeah. So when they told me
Michael Myers background.
yeah, I know, dude. For reals. And he hated his sister, dude. Like he would. I mean, so when my mom told me that Carol had told her stories that where Mateo had attacked, you know, Maya, I was like, that didn't surprise me. Like because he hated her, man. Like hated her, you know. Yeah. So just a very strange dude, man. But
he's a strange dude with a strange story.
That's
strange,
dude.
No,
It's he was. But he made me a believer in all this other stuff that came after. You know what I'm saying?
Strange little boy.
Played
with the Ouija board.
Yeah.
The house that he lived in.
Yeah.
Belonged to a man who died.
Yes, man who died tragically.
He says that a
floating head would visit him.
He was a goth guy.
Yeah, goth.
He had a friend that said that he wants to kill somebody.
Yeah. Imagine meeting somebody, bro, and the first thing out of their mouth is, "Hey, how you doing?" Like, is I want to kill someone. They look you dead in the eyes. They tell you that. I remember just being kind of unsettled by that.
What happened to him?
There's all these unanswered questions I have, dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I mean, I assume this. Maybe he's still locked. In my head, I just envision him still in a mental institution, right? A mental, like somewhere, a mental hospital, being cared for. But I don't know. I mean, who knows, dude? Is he dead? Is he alive? I mean, I don't even know.
Wouldn't it be crazy? Like, I'm just thinking of like, you know, me, right away, my imagination goes wild.
Yeah,
right?
so does mine. Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, what if the Filipino kid was his hallucination and you were able to see that hallucination? Right. Okay?
Dude, anything's possible because, I mean, here's the thing, dude, is like, I was so freaked out by the experience. I can't, and I've tried, but I can't recall what happened. I remember being in his room and saying, "Yo, you got to call sightings. You got to get them over here to check this shit out," right? I don't remember anything afterwards. Like, did we go back out with there was tons of people in the house? I mean, like, dude, Carol had these big parties, and it's a big house. So, I mean, I remember like 40, 50 people being there, dude. Like, you know, I remember just tons of people, dude. Like, and because that street was so narrow, a lot of people had to park on like the street way down and then hike up, you know, and then just walk all the way up that street.
So from the point, okay, so your life up to that point
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
house,
yeah.
right? After seeing those
Yeah.
demons.
Yeah,
After having the experience of having the demons
yeah.
conjured, right?
Yeah.
Because something fucking happened there. It was
Absolutely,
something, dog.
100%.
Because like you said,
Yeah.
okay, so you have the non-physical part,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But then you also have the physical part of the stones
Dude,
making contact with you.
Making contact with me.
So after that experience, you said that it opened your eyes up that
opened my
there's
eyes.
something more going on.
Yeah,
How
so
do you navigate life now? You know what I'm saying? Like how do you have you had anything else
and that's
that had happened after that point
yeah.
that maybe you never would have paid attention to?
Yeah.
But after that experience, you became aware of the invisible.
So here's the thing. My boy, when I was talking about my work partner, Caesar, right? He was saying he thinks, and he always says it, he still says this to this day. He says that that like that experience opened me up, and that like because I had other experiences after that, and nothing's ever happened to him. And he's like, dude, I think that opens something up in you, and your mind is able to see these things, or you're having more experiences because of that. And excuse me, I don't have a lot of experiences, but I had some other experiences after that. You know, one of them very clear in my head that will always that another one that freaked me out was it was my first year in college, right? And so you know, college classes you have them at different times of the day. So what I like to do is I broke up my classes because you can make your own schedule, right? I had like one class in the morning, and then I would just come home, and then I had like 3 classes in the evening, like at night, because I loved the night classes, right? Because I hated that. I didn't want to feel like college was high school where you're in school from like 8 a.m. till 3 p.m. I was like, when I knew I could break up my schedule, I'm like, cool, man. So I'd always do the night classes. There's something about being at school at night I loved, right?
More mature people too in class.
Yes, more mature. So I broke up my schedule like that. I went to school. I came back. At this point, we had a dog, family dog named Lady. She was a Dalmatian. So Lady was there. So I get home, Lady's right there, right? The way that house was set up, so we'd come in from the side gate, and there's a door immediately to your right. That door would lead into an office room, right? That office, then you can go 2 different directions. Once you exit, at the end of that office, there was a door that led to the left into a dining room, and to the right to a living room. So a dining room, and then a long living room. My parents still live in this house. Long living room. At the end of that living room, there's a entrance to a long hallway that goes down the length of the whole house. And that's the hallway where, so growing up, again, I'm the oldest of 6, so there was 3 boys, 3 girls. So the girls would sleep in the girls' room, which as you enter that hallway, the first door to your right, that's the girls' room. So my sisters were in that room. At the end of that hallway, right, there was another opening to enter into the den. At the end of that hallway, it ended at a door, and that door was the boys' room. So it was me and my 2 brothers in that room, right? So the girls' room, boys' room. There was also another door on the left side that went to a restroom, and then another door that was like a closet that led to a basement in that hallway. So yeah, it's an old house my parents live in too. So, and again, now once I opened my mind up to this stuff, I became a big believer, and I started really doing a lot of research and reading more stories and any kind of information I could get, dude. It just opened my mind to, and again, talking about energies and presences in walls and houses and all this stuff, right? And spiritual stuff. I got really into it, you know, and so again, I'm in college. I get back, right? The gate lady comes up to greet me. The first door to the right to go into the house is to the office. So lady's right here. I open the door. She stays outside. I close the door behind me, right? So as I look into the office, right, it's a little long too. There, that doorway right there that leads into the living room, dining room. I see a foot, just the last, like, you know, when someone's exiting a room, you just see the last part of their foot. Very clearly, I saw part of a heel. Right? And then I was thinking, who's home right now? Right? All my brothers, like, they should be in school. But I'm thinking, in my head, I just had this very clear thought. I said, probably my sister ditched school. You know what I'm saying? Because she would do stuff like that sometimes. So I'm like, you know, or not that she would. Actually, no, she wasn't like that. Like, she was getting in trouble when she was younger, but I think by that time she was pretty straight. But just for some reason, I remember thinking in my head very clearly, like, it can only be my sister. She probably was ditched school. So then I remember as I'm walking, you know, across the office room, I'm like, hey, Lena, right? And then I don't get any response. And I'm like, Lena. And I say it louder because I'm kind of annoyed, right? So, and then I sped up, and then as soon as I turned right, it leads into the living room, right? And again, at the end of that living room, there's the entrance to the hallway. So as I turn, I look, and I see that last part of a heel very clearly. So at this point, dude, it's not like, is someone in the house? Like, I'm 100% 10% sure there's someone in the house. I saw this heel twice, but now being an older brother, I'm fucking annoyed. Like, why are you not responding? Oh, you got an attitude? Like, I'm thinking, what's wrong with her? You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, hey, Lena, right? I'm like saying it louder, right? And then I see the last part of the hill, but I'm walking towards it. I see it, boom, down the hallway. Okay. As I turn down the hallway, now I'm fucking like upset. Like, what the F is going on? I turn down the hallway. Again, the first door on the right is to the girls' room. As I turn down the hallway, that door shuts. Boom. It closes. I hear it close. Boom. And so obviously, like, why is there any reason to doubt there's no one I can be in the room? I open the door and I swing it open. I'm like, hey, Lena, what the heck? And I look, no one's in the room. And I'm like, stop fucking around. I'm like, where are you? Dude, I start looking there's 3 beds in there. I look underneath each bed. I open the closet. I start shuffling all the clothes. I'm like pushing them out of the way. I'm like, hey. And I'm like, shit. And the realization hits me that there's no one in that room, dude. Immediately, I booked it back through the way I came, and I opened the door because they always say dogs can sense things, right? And I just didn't at that moment. I just didn't want to be alone. So I said, "Hey, lady, get inside the house." And then I didn't want to be alone. We walked back through the house, and as we're walking through the living room, the dining room, the den, all this stuff, right? I'm just like seeing what my dog's doing. Like, does she sense anything? And she's just chilling, happy, just looking around, like she doesn't sense anything or bother her. We go down that hallway, and I'm freaked out, dude. Like, when I get to that hallway, my heart's racing. I'm like, she's cool. I'm like, all right. I was like, fuck, I'm gonna leave her in the house. My mom's gonna come, like, whatever. I don't remember because my parents don't like the dog in the house. So I'm just like, whatever, you're gonna stick with me. So we're just chilling in the house after that point. But that's another experience I had. So when I told Caesar that, he said, dude, you have, like, your mind's open to this stuff. Maybe that's why you're experiencing. After that first experience, maybe something opened up your mind. I always tell him, nah, man, nah. But he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, but that was another experience in my head where I was like, what was that, dude? Mm-hmm. I saw the heel, and normally I would have came into the office. My normal pattern is come into the office, make a left into the dining room, and the dining room has a hallway that leads into the kitchen. So I was coming home from school, I'm gonna get something to eat. So my normal routine is come home, get something to eat. So I was gonna make a left. The only reason I turned right is because I saw that heel. Mm-hmm. And then when I came out, right, I looked to my right, and when I looked down the living room, I saw that heel go down that hallway, right? And then when I turned that hallway, the door shuts. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that just is crazy in my head is like maybe I could rationalize it and say maybe I wasn't seeing a heel, but very clearly that door shut. And that's why when I entered that room, I was annoyed, and I was like, there was just no doubt in my head that someone was in that room. And then when I realized there's no one in that room, like, what the hell did I see? And what closed this door? You know what I'm saying?
What do you think it was?
Dude, who knows? And here's a little funny story too. Because older brother, I'm always scared of my siblings, right? So I remember when my parents were looking for a house and they found this house, right? So we're touring different houses. There was a house like in Pasadena they were looking at. There was one in Sierra Madre. Then there's one in Arcadia, right? So I always grew up in Arcadia, but we lived on the border of El Monte, Arcadia. But my parents wanted, but that the school district for that house, because it was on the border, I was gonna go to like I think it's not even. For some reason, that part of Arcadia goes to like the El Monte schools or whatever, like somewhere like, so my parents wanted just to go to the Arcadia schools. So they were looking for a house like up in Arcadia somewhere, right? So I remember the realtor, we get there and she's showing us around the house, right? My parents are doing real estate stuff, talking to the realtor, and us little kids were running around the house, opening closets and drawers. And this one drawer I opened, it had a letter and it said, "I'll be back" on it, right? And then I was like, what? And so then I got it, and my sister, she came. I said, "Lena, check this out." I said, "Dude, I think this house is haunted." She's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Look at this letter. It says," I can't remember if it was my sister Lena or my brother Ruben. It was one of my siblings. I said, "Look, I'll be back." And I'm like, "What?" And they got all freaked out. And I think they started crying. In my head, I remember them crying. And then my mom's in. I stopped freaking them out, and then I just laughed and put it back. It was in a drawer. It was just an envelope that said, "I'll be back." I mean, it's probably a realtor or something, right? But it's just a funny story that stands out in my head. But interesting thing too is, so my parents, that house looks completely different now from what it was back then. Because my dad, his background was he's a mechanical engineer. So as a side hobby, he likes every house we lived in, like, so that first house and that house, and then my dad has since bought other properties. One of his hobbies is just like completely redesigning the house. Like, so he construction, he's real big on all this stuff, right? So he's like, just likes designing houses, right? So it looks completely different from what it was. The reason why I bring that up is because getting into all this paranormal stuff, ghosts and all this, a lot of these stories, when you talk about hauntings, for some reason, a lot of them happen like if someone moves into a house, everything is the way it is. a lot of times they don't start experiencing paranormal stuff until they start knocking walls down and doing stuff to the house.
Yes.
And all of a sudden they start having experiences or things start happening in the house. So it's interesting.
You disrupt what they know.
Yes.
And I heard, I had a buddy who came on and he told the story about the haunting in his house.
Okay.
And those hauntings occurred after remodeling, and he started asking questions, and information that he got was that the ghost loses their way in the house because it moved. It changed. The layout changed. I'm gonna take a picture of that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So he the information he got was that hauntings start to occur after the construction was done and remodeling was done to the inside of the house, and it starts to happen because the ghost is unfamiliar with the new layout.
It makes sense. It's a good theory. I like that.
I have shit that goes on here at the pad.
Oh yeah, yeah.
A lot of shit, dude. Dude, we even to the point where we had a lady come in that toured our pad.
Yeah.
And she told us that we have a porthole
in
our fucking house, dog. Dude. And it's
well, who was this lady? How did you find this lady?
My wife. She started doing research online because things were happening that were like unexplainable. And my wife, she's a skeptic. She did not believe in what I was saying that I saw and what I was experiencing. Like I would see like heels.
Okay, yeah.
Looking up the staircase. That's my staircase right there. Looking up the staircase, I would see legs walking upstairs.
Wow.
I would hear things.
Yeah.
I would see people through the corners of my eyes. I would see flashes of people. I still do.
Yeah.
See flashes of people. And she was like, shut up, whatever. Oh, dude, I was using the restroom upstairs.
Yeah.
And I wear a necklace. I don't have it on right now. But somebody walked behind me and pulled that necklace. And I turned around and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Nobody was there. I ran down the stairs so fast, and she was like, what the hell's wrong with you? And I told her what had happened.
Yeah.
Dude, it was somebody pulled my necklace and dropped it on the back of my neck, like when somebody threw a rock and hit you in the back of the head.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? So I was telling her all these things that I was experiencing, and she was just like, yeah, whatever, right?
Yeah,
blowing it off, thinking that I'm making this shit up.
Yeah.
So one day, while her mom, okay, this happens before. So my wife was sitting in the living room, and a ball went rolling into the living room.
Yeah.
There's no reason why the ball should have rolled into the living room.
Yeah.
She was walking out of another time she was walking out of our room, and as she was passing my son's room, she saw a paper move on the floor real fast. And she was like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
We have cameras in the room. So she looked at the camera, she ran the footage back.
Yeah.
And sure enough, a paper moved for no reason. So that got her believing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That got her attention, and she was like, oh, wow, there is maybe.
Oh, that was your wife or your wife's mother?
That was my wife.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But my wife's mom, she was walking down the stairs.
Yeah.
Right? Down to this bottom room that we have over here.
Okay.
And she heard somebody say, hello. She turned around, went right back up. I've been in this, I've been in here. Hey.
Whoa, shit.
I've been in here, dog.
Yeah.
I've been in here, and I was down by the dryer. I was pretty close, right?
Yeah.
And I hear a little girl tell me, hello.
What?
Yeah, and I was like, hello. Like, I answered back.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I also had a little girl in here say, I'm here. Dude, fucking weird fucking shit, dog.
Yeah.
My mom and my aunt, when my twins were born, my mom and my aunt would watch the twins here at the pad.
Yeah.
And we had their cribs set up to where they're facing each other like this.
Yeah.
There was a little space in the middle so that you could stand in the middle and tend to both twins.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So my mom and my aunt put the twins to bed. They came downstairs and turned on the camera because we have a camera that records in their room. So they turned on to watch to see what was going on in the room, just to watch them while they're sleeping, right?
Yeah.
And when that fucking screen turned on, there was a splash of a lady standing in the middle of my twins' cribs in that area that separated them.
Yeah, yeah.
She was standing right there, and she was leaning over my twin Jameson.
Yeah.
And so my mom and Matt are like, what the fuck? They got scared.
Yeah.
They ran up the stairs to see what was going on. Nothing. Right? There's nobody in there.
Man.
Hey, okay, so
Damn.
and also that got us to start noticing things in the twins' room, and there was just a bunch of orbs going on at nighttime on camera, and that's where we supposedly have the portal. So my wife does research, and she finds
This lady.
this lady who comes down, and she's like, oh yeah, man, the energy is heavy in here, right? Whatever, right? She starts walking through the house, telling us all kinds of things, and she's like, yeah, you know, and she comes to the conclusion that there was a woman that was in a car accident, and in that car accident, her and her baby died. And the woman had an opportunity to pass on, to go to the light,
Yeah.
but instead she turned around and came back here because she did not know that her baby died. So she wanted to stick around and look for her baby.
Wow.
Right? Okay. And I don't know how she ended up here. Okay, she ended up here through the portal, dog. Right?
Man, yeah.
And the lady was describing the woman's child as having curly hair. And my son Jameson has curly hair. So, and then she also said, she told me, she looked at me and she says that my energy is very high and that I'm also attracting them.
Wow.
Now, I'm not just saying that just to fucking
Yeah.
say that because it's
Yeah.
the fucking, you know,
Yeah.
but that's what she fucking said, right? Whatever, she said
Yeah.
that. And now here I am having all these crazy experiences
Right?
as well. Dog.
Yeah.
But it's not just here at the pad, Dick. I've had weird things happen to me my entire life.
Well,
So,
that's kind of what led us into this whole path, right? Is the experience we had at work, you know, and then how after that you told me when I saw it in the sky, right, the object. We haven't talked about it yet, but and then you told me that you know you have experiences,
Dude,
you know, you're open to it, and then
was
that's when I
abducted,
led
bro.
into my story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
damn. I mean, so she straight up told you that you were open,
That's
so
what
she
told
sensed
me.
something
That's what
about
she
you.
told me, right? So I was like, yeah, whatever, right?
Yeah,
And still, even to this day, I'm like, yeah, whatever,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah.
I experienced what I experienced. It is what it is. I
Yeah.
saw my neighbor who passed away a couple of years, maybe about 2 years ago. I was outside and I was moving my trash cans out, and to my left, I saw my neighbor who passed away. Like, he passed away like a couple of days
yeah,
before that. I was like, oh shit, I tripped out. Oh fuck. The next day, one of his sons came down to move stuff out of the house because they were moving, and I told him, hey, you know, I asked him, do you believe in ghosts? He said, yeah, I do. I go, dude, I saw your dad. I saw your dad last night standing right there, and he told me, oh wow. He was like, oh shit, that's where my dad used to stand and smoke cigarettes. I was like, holy shit.
yeah.
Whatever, crazy,
yeah,
dude,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So then after that, after she came, we kept having, you know,
Yeah.
experiences.
So your
we-
wife you contacted her because you want to know, you just wanted to see what she would find, or what
if
she
you
would
could help us out.
If you could help, yeah,
help us out.
in the situation.
Let's stop this from happening, type
Yeah.
of shit.
You know,
So-
it's interesting, man. Oh no, go ahead.
So then we have a friend in the family who's a shaman.
Oh, okay.
So she came down. She said the same shit without us even telling her.
What?
She said the same shit about the porthole, energy.
What?
So she did a thing here at the pad that was supposed to calm things down,
Yeah,
burn incense,
for instance.
gave us, hey, you put agua florida, all this stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we're like, all right, cool, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So then I got to thinking.
Okay.
Me and my wife, we lost a baby about 2021, right? He never made it out of the womb. He passed away in the womb. There was nothing we could do about it, right? His
yeah.
name was Nico, right?
Okay.
I started seeing Nico here at the pad, dog.
Damn.
Yeah, right? And I said to myself, if I'm burning incense and I'm doing things to keep away spirits,
Yeah.
I'm also keeping away the good ones.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nobody here has ever done anything bad. Like spirits here at the pad,
Okay.
nobody's ever fucked with us.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of non-humans spirits, but they're not doing anything
Yeah.
to me. Like I feel no threat from anything. I don't feel no bad energy. Right?
Okay.
So I said, myself, you know what? Fuck it. No more burning incense. No more trying to prevent
Yeah.
this.
If nothing bad's happening,
let's just go with
then-
it.
yeah.
Let's just go with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I see my dog Duke, who passed away.
Yeah.
I've seen him here at the pad. I've seen Nico here at the pad.
Yeah.
My wife's father passed away when she was in high school, and I feel him. I've told my wife, hey, I think I saw your dad. So why do anything to prevent something that is not threatening us.
Yeah.
And like I said too, why am I going to push out or keep out the good spirits?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
That's what it is.
I constantly, and you know, I tell them go to the light, because that's what they told me to say. You know, you go to the light. You know, this is no longer your reality. So you're coming here, you're charging up with energy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And after you charge up, move on. Go to the light.
You go to the light.
And you know, that's basically the way that it is, dog. Dude.
That's
Man, but I've seen some crazy shit, dog. I saw a giant, like a giant lady, and I know this sounds fucking crazy. And I here at the pad in my room, I walked out of my restroom, and out of the side of my eye, I saw, it was just nighttime. Lights are off, except for the lights are off, but we have a night light on in the restroom that illuminates, right? And so I was walking out, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw something tall, and I looked, and I saw like a giant face that was looking this way, right? So it was me. If I was looking up at it, it was looking that way, and I got so fucking surprised by it. I went poof, poof, poof. I threw punches at it.
Wow.
That was my natural reaction.
Yeah.
And my hands went through it, and I punched up like that. Boom, boom, boom. My hands went through it, and I went, fuck.
Yeah.
That my hands went through it, and I fucking, from there, I jumped on the bed. And my wife was like, what happened? What the fuck was that?
Yeah.
I was like, I fucking saw a witch. I saw something that was up here. It was either standing on the dresser, and that's what made it tall, or it was floating. And so, whatever. So, yeah, it is what it is. And
That's what it is.
And this is one of the reasons why I started this podcast, is because I'm looking for questions. I'm looking for answers to my questions.
Yeah.
Because I know there is, like, you know, because of your experiences, there is more out there.
Absolutely.
That
100%.
we do not understand.
Yeah.
There's things that are going on around us,
All around us.
all the time, that we are unaware of, because we are not picking up on that. We are not tuning into it, you know. But I also believe that we have the capability of tuning into all of this.
Yeah.
But we no longer are able to use it, because we're no longer taught how to use it, these abilities. And so because we're no longer taught how to use them, we can't practice them and fine tune them. Psychics.
Yeah.
You got people that are psychics, man.
Yep.
You have fucking Mateo or his little friend that conjured a demon.
Yeah.
There's ways to do, or to connect, or to unlock our unknown abilities.
Yeah.
You know,
it definitely is.
Throughout time, there's evidence.
One of the things that I've been hearing more about and looking into is remote viewing. You know, these guys who do remote viewing. That's amazing example, stuff.
Dog.
It's amazing stuff. Because they are even under the belief. All these studies were funded by CIA, and they brought like this team of dudes together, right? You hear all this stuff, but like
the Gateway Project.
Yeah, and like the Monroe Institute, all these places, and how they say that they even believe that we're just pieces of consciousness, and when you tap into that consciousness, you can take your mind other places outside the body, you know, without drugs. You know, just because, you know, you hear ayahuasca and all this other stuff, there's a way to channel that and do that even without the use of drugs, you know. It's very interesting stuff, man. But, you know, my mind is so open to all this stuff because that first experience I have, you know, and then obviously the one in college, right, in the living room, or in the hallway, I mean. It's to me, it's a never-ending fascination, man. You know, I always like hearing people's stories, hearing the different things. Your story actually reminded me of a story. So one of my best friends growing up, right, his name was Phil. He had an older brother named Dave, right, and Dave was a cool dude, man, a cool dude. They had same father, different mothers. So Dave lived with his mother, right. So one time we're chilling at a party at Dave's house, and Dave, you know, I've known him for a long time, forever, right? He's just a no nonsense kind of guy. He doesn't bullshit. And somehow we got on the subject of, you know, this kind of topics, right? Spiritual stuff. And then he said, hey, man, the only thing I ever experienced, he said, The only thing that ever tripped me out, he said that his mom, they would always be moving from place to place to place to place. And then they moved to a few different houses in Sierra Madre at one point when he was like, I don't know, he was like 12 or 13, right? He said. And at this point, we're probably like, me and Phil were the same age. So we're probably like around this time, I don't know, I want to say we're like 20, 21 years old, something like that. I was in college at the time. So Dave was like maybe 5 or 6 years older than us. So he said at one point when he was about like 12 or 13, like they were hopping around and they lived in Sierra Madre at like a couple of different places. And I have friends who lived up in Sierra Madre back in the day, and they would tell me their houses were haunted. So, and then Dave told me that, from talking to neighbors and things when he lived there, like the other kids, like that there's a lot of haunted places up there. A lot of old houses up in like an upper part of Sierra Madre. And it's crazy. If you ever driven up there, very narrow streets, very straight, like it's not like a grid pattern where everything's north, south, east and west. It's just this very, when you get up there, it's a very crazy, like these little narrow streets and these tight houses and strange looking houses built weird, very strange stuff up there. So there was one house where they were renting up there, he said, and they were experiencing a lot of stuff. He said, like in the kitchen, drawers would open, doors would slam. They were seeing things out of the corner of their eyes. His mom was freaked out. So she had, like you, and this is why your story reminded me of that. This is the only time I ever heard. Yours is the second story I ever heard of someone actually reaching out to try to find someone to come in and give them solutions to get rid of this or answers, because it was very clear to his mom and him, like things were going on. It's just him and his mother. So he said they contacted some person that his mother found. Who knows how she found him back in the day? I think, who knows? And he said that this couple showed up at the door, and he described him. Have you ever seen that movie, Poltergeist?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember?
God is in.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Now, do you remember the lady they contacted? She was like short and chubby, and her husband.
Okay, yes.
And wasn't like the what was it? One of the dudes in there, right? The Poltergeist. He was like, remember, he was dressed in black and he had this brimmed hat.
He's the one. God is in his holy temple.
Yeah.
That's Poltergeist 2. He shows
That's
up to the door and just looks
He shows up to the door. Remember? Yeah. And he has that creepy grin and smile. Remember, he smiles, right? The creepiest teeth, right? So the way Josh described it, he said, dude, so my mom contacted this couple, and they apparently deal in this stuff. And then he said, dude, when he opened the door, instantly his mind said, holy shit, they look exactly like the couple from the Poltergeist. That's how he remembers thinking in his head. He said, this short lady with glasses, round, short lady, and her husband, this tall, skinny guy dressed in black with a brimmed hat. And he was like, what? Like, he said it was just crazy, because the first thought in his head was like, this looks like the freaking Poltergeist, right? Like the dude and the short chick, right? So they come into the house and they start burning incense. So him and his mom are following them around the house. And then she said the same thing, like that there's spirits coming in here like a portal. And she said there are some good and some bad, And so, because they were telling about all the crazy shit that was going on in that house. And they hadn't experienced anything negative, kind of like yourself. But this lady did say there are some good and some bad, right? And she said that it seems like to her, the most of the energy is coming in from the kitchen. And that's where he said they would experience a lot of shit in the kitchen, right? So she was doing whatever she's doing, right? Like burning incense. And then he said he'll never forget this. He said that all of a sudden the guy starts, like, he's very stiff. He got real stiff. And then his body started leaning over more and more and more to this crazy angle where Josh was like, or not, Dave was, he said that he's like, there's no way a human body could, it got to an angle, right? He's leaning over so much. He's like, there's no way a human body could stand at this angle. Like where he got like almost more than 45 degrees off the ground, like from the ground. And then his body shot back and he slammed into the cupboards. And he was like, holy shit. And the lady got freaked out. The short lady, he was like, okay, we're done here. And then they left. They got freaked out. And then he said, and I asked him, like, holy shit, dude. I was like, he said that was the freakiest thing he ever experienced. He was like, that, just seeing that guy just leaning slowly more and more and more towards the ground and then flying back, and it freaked them out. And then I said, well, did you guys move out? He said, well, eventually we moved out, but we didn't move out because of that reason. He said, because the thing was, we had never experienced anything negative. So my mom was like, after that, she was just like, we're just like, we're just going to live. It is what it is, because we haven't experienced anything negative, just things that kind of freak him out. A door slamming here or a drawer opening there, things moving around, things sliding around or whatever. He said that sometimes it would visit him in his room. And so he's always been big into guitar, right, Dave? And so he had like several guitars, right? He had bass guitars and regular 6-string guitars. And he said sometimes he would be woken up, and then his bass guitar, it was always his bass guitar, he said, it would just be hitting the top string, bing, bing. It would just be strumming that string, bing, and he would just be like, "Oh, what's up?"
Yeah.
Just say,
Yeah.
"All right, good to see you," and he would just go back to sleep. But he said, just every so often, all of a sudden, he would just get woken by that string being plucked.
That's to the point that it is here now, where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, cool,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. He said it wasn't. He didn't feel scared. He said because they'd been through so much experiences in that house that he's just like, well, it's just they're not trying to harm us or nothing, not throwing knives at us or anything. You know what I mean? And then and so it was interesting because that's the only other case I've heard of someone reaching out to somebody to like try to like come in and see. So that was your case is the second one I ever heard of that. But it is interesting how all this stuff is like, it trips me out because, again, I've always believed in the alien stuff, right? And so now I've been a big believer in that stuff. And now my mind was like, once I experienced that first experience at Mateo's house in the backyard when I was like 15 years old, and I knew there was something else. So in my mind, it's like, okay, how does all this stuff fit into this like universe, right? Like here we are on Earth. So if aliens exist and ghosts exist, like how does all this stuff intermingle? Is it interdimensional? Is it all this stuff? And that's why this to me is a subject that never gets old, and it's always interesting because again I listen to like different podcasts, right? Mr. Ballin, Sean Ryan, Joe Rogan, and sometimes they have these guests on here who talk about consciousness, other realms, and different things. And I'm like, wow, man. And it's more and more over the years, I've become a big believer in what we were talking about earlier, that we're just vessels, and consciousness is this greater thing. And then at some point when the sperm hits the egg and it fertilizes and then it starts growing, at some point a piece of this consciousness comes in, right? And there have been cases, if you listen to Mr. Ballin's podcast, there have been different stories, like the one you said, the little girl with the liver transplant. There's been cases where kids were born, and it's almost like when that consciousness went into them, right, another one kind of squeezed in there. And then all of a sudden, like there have been several cases like where kids have had like in India and different things, right? This one case that he was talking about was like this kid, and he was like always talking about war experiences, and he was just and they're like, where's this even coming from? And then he would talk about these things so accurately that the parents had no choice but to believe him. And then he said who he was and where he came from. They went and did the research, and they found out all this stuff, the airplane, I think it was a pilot, the airplane he flew in, and all this stuff was like they basically tracked down the guy that was in his brain. That was the dreams and the experiences he was talking about, this kid. And then they said when he hit his, so they even tracked down people that knew that dude who died. And they were crying when they're hearing like the stories that the kid was telling. Like they're obviously, the person they loved was somehow inside of this child, But they said that as the kid became like a teenager, that it just, all that kind of faded away and he just became who he is. But it's interesting. It's almost like another piece of someone's consciousness slipped in there when he was born.
Or maybe it was a piece of his consciousness.
Or maybe, But it's interesting how this stuff, these concepts work, the consciousness. Another reason why I believe this stuff is because, so being heavy into the UFO stuff, right? I had never heard about, so this dude clearly to me channeled something in that backyard, right? He summoned something somehow, and I've always been like just fascinated in aliens, right? I still am. And, I eventually came across a guy, you probably know him, Stephen Greer. I don't know if you're Stephen Greer. And just going deep into him, right? And he talks about how he's able to summon aliens, like through consciousness. And that was the first time I ever heard of someone talking about using your consciousness to like channel and focus it and actually bring. So he does these seminars, or not these seminars, these meetups in the mountains and different places. I think I forget what he calls them, but like I think CE3 or something like that, where you get a group of people, and he says they all focus their conscience, their intentions out, right? And he says you got to picture yourself like. Mentally, you got to picture yourself where you're at on Earth. Like picture Google Maps going like there's the world, he said, and then as your mind zooms into where you're at on Earth, the continent, right, and then the state, and then the city, and then the exact location, right? You close your eyes and you just focus, and then you put that intention, like that focus. So basically, you're what you're doing. He said is the way he described it, right, is that you're like pulling. Like you're speaking out to them, and you're showing them an accurate map of exactly visually in your mind how to get to where you're at. So you're putting the consciousness out there and saying, look, here's the universe, there's Earth, and as Earth becomes closer and closer, you start seeing continents, and then you zoom in the continent, the state, the city, and then to that exact place where you're at in your head, and then they see things. Sometimes they're things in the sky, right? They're like just little orbs moving around, or like, crafts, I guess you would call them. Sometimes they're entities that come in from other dimensions, he says, He even has pictures of these entities. They've captured a couple of them on video or on pictures, right? It's crazy, man. There have been cases where he said some of them have come and touched people and healed them, like they had sicknesses and they got healed from these other entities that came in, and crazy stuff like that. So that was the first time I heard about someone using consciousness, mind, to reach out to something greater, Now, since then, through different podcasts and just doing research, I've come across different people who talk about this concept of consciousness, So now as I get older and more into this stuff, I think like that is what it is. I'm more and more convinced that it's like we're just a piece of consciousness, like we're literally just a piece of consciousness. There was one dude, I forget his name. I gotta look it up, but I like what he was saying. He said that he's 100% certain that we're in a virtual reality. Basically, that consciousness creates all this stuff around us, and that we're basically, consciousness is playing us like a character that you play in a game. For example, say you're playing a game, first-person shooter, right? That character, like, has no idea that you're controlling them. That is their reality in there, right? And you're controlling them. He said the same way consciousness is playing us, and that was an interesting concept to view it like that. Like consciousness is a greater thing, and a piece of it in us.
Love you, Dad. Love you too, Pops.
So very interesting concepts. It's just and I love talking to people. And then it just got me thinking about. So I don't know. You want to talk about the experience we had?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to talk about it? Or you want to...
Well. Okay. So we were outside.
Yeah.
Right? We were outside.
Yeah.
And
there was other people with us.
There was other people with us.
Yeah.
This has happened to me before.
Okay.
This happened
I remember you were telling me that.
Where something just tells me to look up.
Yeah.
Right. So I looked up, and I stared into this area of the sky, and I saw a light. Mm-hmm. And that caught my attention. So I just stood on it, and I just kind of like, so that I was able to find it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then that's when I was like, hey, I started telling everybody, there's something up there. There's something up there, right? Well, where's it at? Where's it at? So I was trying to describe where it was at. Yeah. And I told everybody, you see this tree? You get this tree, and you followed it all the way up. And there it is. Yeah. It's right there. And you saw it.
I saw it.
Did anybody else see it?
No. So here's the thing is that the other people we were with, right? We were all looking up when you said that, right? And then we're all looking up where, and you're pointing, and we're all looking in that direction. No one's seeing it, including myself, right? And you're just trying to describe where it's at. And then everyone, after like, I don't know, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, people are like, you're full of shit. Yeah, they stopped.
They lost interest in it.
They lost interest. But when I saw how intensely you were like very adamant there was something there, I'm like, you're not bullshitting. Like there's something there, right? So I kept looking. And then when you're trying to describe where it's at, what I did was this is how I saw it. I said, okay, first of all, I believed you, right? And then second of all, I said, I want to focus my mind on a pinpoint. Like I'm going to try to focus my mind as far as possible. Because here's my thing that I was thinking in my head. Okay, if I have one finger here, right? I can switch focus from this finger to that finger, right? Mm-hmm. And back and forth. I know where I'm looking at, right? Reference wise, right? For example, if you see an airplane and then like the moon behind it, if you look at the airplane, the moon's blurry, right? But then if you want to see the moon, your mind knows how far to focus to see the moon, right? Mm-hmm. And then the moon becomes a focus and the plane becomes blurry or whatever, right? So I didn't know how far I should focus my mind. Like, what am I looking? There's no reference because I can't see anything at first, right? So I told my mind, I said, okay, you gave me a reference of like, okay, you're like, you see this tree or pole, or you said something. You said, okay, go straight up from that and then like right over to the right or whatever your directions were. So when you told me that, I said, okay, I'm going to focus my mind. I'm going to make a conscious effort to focus my mind as far away as a pinpoint. Like I'm going to set my focus as far away as I can, right? What I think is the furthest point. And as soon as I did that, boom, it appeared to me. I saw it. And it was like a white orb. And then when I described it, and then remember sometimes it would cut out and then all of a sudden it would reappear. And then you were like, you see it? And then I said, yeah. And then it would cut out. You're like, look, I said it cut out. You're like, yeah, it cut out. And then boom, it'll reappear. And I'm like, it's it right there. And then I remember after I said I see it, then I think one of the other coworkers we work with came over and was like trying to look. They're like, you guys are full of shit or whatever. But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. Right? What I described, because I've told this incident to several people now. I told them, this is what I describe it as. I said, you ever been like at a birthday party and then some kid lets go of a balloon and then, oh, there goes a balloon. And then it goes up and up. And then your mind kind of gets distracted. And then you're just kind of like, what? You're like, oh, where'd that balloon go? And you look and it's like way further, right? And then all of a sudden, like you lose track. And then you see if you can find it again. And it's like a tiny little speck, to the point where it gets so small that if you were to talk to a stranger and say, hey man, can you see that balloon? They would have no reference of how far to look. So they would just be like, I don't see shit. But once you see the balloon, you can't unsee it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You could be like this. And because there have been times when I tested myself, like a balloon like that and said, let me see if I can find that balloon again. I look and then you're looking for a second and boop, it becomes crystal clear. I mean, it's a tiny speck so far away, the balloon. And it would trip me out sometimes. I'm thinking like, that's crazy. Like my mind knew where to look and I found that balloon again. Like you can see it. Once you see that balloon, you can't unsee it. The coordinates are like stuck in your head. So that's what it reminded me of. I tell people, once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check this out. How the fuck did I find it?
That's what tripped me out. That's what tripped me out.
That's why I said.
I didn't know. How did you know where to look?
Something called me. Something said, hey, look at me.
Yeah.
Look at me. And so that's what I knew exactly where to look.
And it's funny
I knew exactly where to go.
Yeah.
It's not like I was like, okay, well, I'm looking. No.
Yeah. Dude, you have the whole sky.
There it is.
How did you know to look right there?
It called me.
Yeah. Like when the balloon gets to a point where it's a little tiny speck, right? If you're just to tell some stranger or someone say, hey, find the balloon in the sky. There's just no way. They're like, well, where? Like it's so vast, the sky, you don't know where to focus your attention. But again, I could find it in a second because I know where to look. So that's what tripped me out. Like, how did you even know where to look? You know?
It called me, and that's not the first time that has happened to me.
Okay, did I tell you what happened later that day?
No.
So I was with the team, right? At work, we're going into another building, right? Later on that day, because you had left earlier, and I stuck around till late. Mm-hmm. So we're about to go in this building. Before we enter the building, we're all together. They're coming up with the game plan of how we're going to enter the building and whatever. And I looked in the sky, and I thought, dude, I couldn't stop thinking about that, right? And I thought, damn, because I remember, how did I see it? I focused my mind with intent to see it, and then I saw it, and I couldn't unsee it. So I thought, damn, what if there's more of these things floating around? I just don't like actually focus or whatever, right? So I was just kind of like, whatever. The moon was out, and then I looked towards the moon, and at the same distance that thing was, I saw a black orb. It was black, and then it would turn white, and then it would turn black, and then it would cut out. And I didn't say anything to anybody because I'm thinking, I don't want them to think I'm crazy. But so they're talking. I couldn't focus on what the supervisor was talking about, how we're getting into the building, because he's talking, blah, 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 blah. And then I'll just look up and I'll be like, oh, shit, I see that thing. And then I'm like, am I tripping? I would look back at the group and be like, I'm tripping. I'm like, I'm tripping. And then I would look back up and I would see it. And it was doing the same thing that orb was doing. It was moving slightly and then it would dip out and then it would reappear. Except this one was black and then it would flash white. And then it would turn black and then it would dip out. And then all of a sudden I'd see it. I'm like, where is it? Where is it? And boom, it would reappear. And then it would be like black or white. And then it would flash to the opposite color. And I was like, that's crazy. I have no idea, you know? And I told that story to a couple of friends and like, you know, I told it to Caesar, you know, and then he was like, dude, he's like, I'm telling you, you're open to stuff. And I said, I don't know, bro. I said, but once I saw it, it was a trip. It was and I told him, because I was like, oh, I told my essay, you know, but I hadn't seen it. I forgot about that second part. But tripped me out, dude. It was that same day, just later on, you know.
I wouldn't doubt when I go back and edit this video.
Yeah.
When I go through it, I wouldn't doubt if I see orbs here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
that
what
would be interesting.
Because if you're open to it, I'm open to it. We're at my fucking house where there's a porthole.
Yeah.
We're probably attracting things.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna really, really pay attention when I edit it. Hey, let's start wrapping this up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 2 questions. So question number 1 is coming from Joey, who was on episode 15. You're episode 16.
Yes.
He's episode 15.
Yeah.
And so what I'm gonna start doing now is I'm gonna ask you too.
Okay.
I'm gonna start asking all my guests for a question they want to ask the next guest.
Okay.
So what Joey asked, he asked, what are you doing to make yourself better and to make the world a better place without being selfish?
Without being selfish. So that's a great question. You know, I would say what I'm doing is on a daily basis. Lately, I've been just consciously making an effort to be to have my mind focused, to be as calm and possible and positive as possible. Right, so as calm and positive as possible. The reason why is because I always there's always been a thing in my head of saying that a calm mind prevails. There could be a situation of chaos, and we've been in many situations, you and me, doing what we do for a living, where there's chaos, and you've seen staff, kids, people panic, right? Then those calm minds that see it and do what needs to be done to calm the situation. Like you see, okay, there's chaos, focus your mind and do what needs to be done to, get through that situation, right? So calm mind prevails. It's also something I've heard, like, these Navy SEALs that I listen to and I follow on social media and everything. They talk about that in the heart of battle, right? Is panic is and fear are that will fuck you up, having a calm, focused mind, right? And then I say being calm and being positive, because positive energy, just like we talk about energies, and there's something to this, right? About being positive that affects consciousness and the people around you. So when you're talking about what is something that I'm doing to affect the people around me, like the community, that's something that I've always been a big believer in, dude, is being calm. That's a new thing for me, being calm, right? And then, I've always been a kind of person where I don't panic, but just making a conscious effort to be, no matter what life throws my way, just have a calm mind about it, right? Because calm minds prevail, and being positive. So going back to positivity affects everyone around you. And I've seen this, like, it's a thing where it's like, you can enter a room, and I've had several people in different jobs tell me this, right? And in our job, we moved around, right? So all the different units I've been in, I still am in contact with a lot of those people. And the reason why it's funny is that several people on different occasions don't even know each other in the department we work in, have told me that my energy affects them in a positive way. And I trip out on that, because people have just told me that over the years. It's like that they feel better when I'm around. They feel like hey, we can handle this situation no matter how bad it gets. I've been in some real tough situations where, yeah, it looked like things were going to go bad quick, right? And then it's like, and my buddy, I have had a few friends in the department tell me, dude, as soon as you walked in, I just had this like feeling like we're going to be good. And I'm like, because they're like, how do you always have this positive mindset? And I'm like, I just do, man, because it's what it is. Like, we're going to handle the situation no matter what it takes. So we're going to get through it, and so the reason why I so early on believed in this. And so going back to my cousin, so we talked about some of my passions, right? Hardcore, right? Straight edge. Music, that to me is everything, right? Riding motorcycles brings me a peace, a tranquility that almost nothing else can, right? And then fishing. Dude, I am a huge fisherman. And my cousin Willie, my older cousin, him and my uncle Jimmy, the one who would take me camping and would expose me to the punk rock on that tape, I would always go fishing with them all the time. So fishing is a big passion for me. There was a professional fisherman, one of the top fishermen in San Diego, right? He wrote a book. When I read that book, it's the first time I ever heard about this concept. He talked about when he wins tournaments. So one thing, when he has if you look at, he has some of the best records in fish in San Diego County, right? These huge bass. And he would say that he noticed the connection. One of it, it's funny because you think you read, I got this book to learn techniques, fishing techniques. So he teaches you different things, boat positioning, line, lure choice. But out of nowhere, he hits you with this one chapter. I still have this book. Out of nowhere, he hits you with this concept that he said, he's a big believer that if his life isn't squared away, everything back at home, he won't catch fish. So he's like, if I make sure my house is in order, whatever, dishes are cleaned, bills are paid, relationship's good with the wife, I will catch fish. He's all, when home life is fucked up, I don't catch anything. He started seeing a correlation behind that. It's the last thing you would think to find in a fishing book, right? When he said that, I was tripping out, like, what is he talking about? And then I was like, it always stuck out in my head, that chapter. Like, he was like, why? And then I would think, why is that? And then I would follow a lot of pro bass fishermen, right? Like Mike Iaconelli and all these different dudes in the circuit, right? Because it's funny because I don't know shit about basketball, whatever. I can name professional bass fishermen. Like, that's how much I'm into fishing, right? So some of these guys, I would see these interviews with them online and on TV, and they'll talk about techniques. And a couple of them had mentioned over the years that there's a mind line connection. Your mind connects to the line. You visualize traveling down the line to the lure and what that lure is doing precisely down there. And I've done that where I focus and all of a sudden I catch a fish. And I'm like, it's almost like magic, dude.
Yeah.
There was one dude, and again, why I'm big on this with the positivity thing. So one of the jobs I did before where we work, what we do is I worked at a supermarket, right? At that supermarket, there was a cashier. Her name was Mary Lou, right? She lived in an apartment complex right next to the supermarket. So one day I'm the bag boy, so I'm bagging the groceries, and we're just chopping it up. We're talking, and she tells me her younger brother's into fishing. She's like, "Dude, you should take my brother fishing." His name was Anthony. I said, "Cool." So at this time, I'm like 21, 22, something like that, right? So her younger brother is like 17, right? He's like a junior or something, or senior in high school. So we hook up. I say, "Hey, what's up, Anthony?" Right? And to this day, so I haven't talked to him, but recently, but over the years we had fished and stuff. He is I would say he's more positive than me. And dude, I've never seen him in a bad mood. He's always like super positive when we go fishing, right? And dude, I shit you not, dude. Like, and I'm not the only motherfucker who noticed this, that we'll go somewhere and we're all fishing in relatively the same area, casting at the same structures or whatever, using similar line, maybe the same exact lure, right? And me and my boy Diego, he's a big fisherman too. We're casting, and then maybe because you want to respect each fisherman's area. So I'm like, there's nothing here, right? So I'll go over to another area, maybe something that Diego's fishing. Anthony will come along, toss the lure exactly where I've been fishing for the last 15, 20 minutes, bam, and he'll land a massive bass. I'm like, dude, like a 5-6 pounder, dude. And it hasn't happened once. It's happened so many times that Diego told me one time, dude, you notice that Anthony, like, what's up with that, dude? Every time we go, it'll be one of those days where there's tons of fishermen and no one's catching shit. He'll throw his line out there and slam something huge. And I was like, and he's such a positive person. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, that's crazy, man. Because Diego noticed it one time and he brought it up to me. He was like, dude, Anthony always catches. And I'm like, he always catches, man.
It's like the law of attraction.
The law of attraction. Right? Yeah, it's like, but he always is a happy-go-lucky. I've never seen him in a bad mood. And there are days, dude. I've had it many days where I wake up, okay, I know I'm going fishing the next day. I wake up somehow, and this thought has occurred to me, like, it's going to be a bad day. I'm not going to catch shit today. Like, I'm like, fuck. And that thought occurs, and I try to shake it off, and it's a shitty day. Then there's days where, like, I've been on, where I'm going fishing the next day, or I'm going on a boat or whatever, and I wake up, and the thought in my head is like I'm 100% sure I'm catching fish. How do I know? I don't know. But I'm like, I wake up, and I'm saying, oh, I'm going to catch fish today. And then I just slay, dude. And I'm like, there's something with the mind. So when that pro bass fisherman talked about, he always makes sure his house is squared away. Like he has a clear mind when he comes. So he's focused with intent, right? And positivity, right? So again, through him was the first time, and seeing Anthony and different things. And I know that when I'm in a more positive mood, and I'm not upset about anything or whatever, I catch fish. So there's something about being positive that, dude, it literally affects fish biting a lure on your line. That's crazy to talk. When you tell someone that, like, you won't catch fish if you don't stay positive, that sounds crazy. People will be like, you're full of shit. But I've experienced it myself. And I know people who, like, when you're focused and you're positive, you keep a positive out, boom, all of a sudden you catch fish. And I don't know why, but it works and it happens, And so, again, going back now to why positivity is so important, because, again, I've been in several situations, several rooms where as soon as I come in, and it's not just me, though, but I've been in a room where all of a sudden someone positive, some good energy comes in, and it completely changes the dynamic of that room and all the people in there. And you might have a situation that was chaotic, but just that person's presence, all of a sudden everything changes. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy how that energy affects everybody. So going back to the dude's question, like, what am I doing to affect positive change in my life and people around me in the community? When you bring like, if you wake up in a good mood and a positive energy, every person you come in contact with and interact with throughout that day, that positive energy, I believe, causes waves to go out of positivity, and that changes the people around you, the community. So what if you're at the supermarket, you have a good interaction, like say on the way to work, or you're grabbing coffee at a cafe, you have a positive interaction with that person, and your energy translates to them, and all of a sudden, we've all been in those situations where, I've had it where people will tell me, like, oh man, I'm glad, I feel like happy that we had this little conversation, or you make someone laugh, or, you give them that good energy, who knows, and then you leave, and that's it. You go on to your work, or you go wherever in that day, but that all of a sudden you cause that person to have a positive experience, and that energy, now all of a sudden maybe you turn their shitty day into a good day. how many ripples, like how far does that go out? Where does that translate to their home life, to their coworkers? That positivity goes out, you know? So I'm a huge believer in that. Calm mind and a positive mind, because again, the older I get, the more I see that energy is a very important thing. It's very, you know, and I'm sure, you know, I don't know what your work history is, right? As far as like what you did before, where we work and all this stuff, but it's like, I've worked at many jobs, man, and you always have those people who are constantly negative. They're a glass half empty person, right? And their energy affects everybody. Puts me in a fucked up mood, puts other people in a fucked up mood. You have a fucked up day. And then those people, like, you can't wait till you see them, because you know you're just like, it's gonna be cool. Like, we're gonna be rock and roll. We're gonna have a fucking good time. You know what I mean? And I think that's why we connect, man, because you have that energy. Like, I feel like when I see, hey, what's up? Like, you know, but you always have those people. And I trip out when I see those people in our department or even in life, where they just have a sour attitude all the time. You know what I mean? My wife's brother, my brother-in-law, he's like that, dude. He has a really bad attitude all the time. And he's just always a habitual complainer, dude. You know what I'm saying? He can't see past that, you know? And I feel bad for him. You know, I do. Because, yeah, it's hard, man, to keep a positive mindset. You know, you have to sometimes be conscious of it, because things get thrown your way, you know?
Yeah, dog.
People die, bad things happen to good people. Anything can happen. We wake up, we don't know if we're going to see tomorrow. We just don't know. So to me, it's important to always keep things in perspective, you know? Something bad will happen. You know, sometimes that saying, when it rains, it pours, like sometimes that happens. Like all of a sudden, you get hit with some unexpected expense, right? Like my motorcycle, my insurance dude hit me up and said, oh, you know, you actually owe us extra $300 because they found a citation that happened in 2022. I was like, shit. So, and then all of a sudden, dude, I get a warning on my thing right after that happened, of low tire pressure. And I'm like, oh, there goes that.
When it rains, it pours, man.
When it rains, it pours. And so when that cycle happens, I've had many instances in my life where one thing, then the next, and the next, and the next, and then my wife might hit me with some other shit, or all of a sudden my son has a fever, and I'm like, God damn, like, can we get past, like, this is a week right here, you know? And in those moments, that's why I make a conscious effort to stay positive, because you could easily slip into a negative downfall, and it just gets worse and worse. It spirals.
You can have positive momentum and fucking negative momentum.
Yeah.
It's very easy to spin out.
Dude, it's so easy. So to make a conscious effort, that's what I bring to myself and to the world, you know? And it may seem selfish. I'm trying to do something for myself, but in actuality, I'm trying to do that to better the ones around me, you know, to bring that energy out there.
I believe that. The better you are, the better everybody around you will be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Question number 2. If you could give your freshman self any advice, what would it be?
My freshman self.
Yep.
Discipline equals freedom. That's I love that saying, and it's something that I truly believe in, you know. Again, the more squared away, the more discipline you have in life, the more freedom you have. So if I was more disciplined early on in life to like save money, to to just do different things in my life, you know, to be more disciplined physically. As I get older now, I'm really, like, especially this year, I'm really focused now on just, I want to get back into shape, do all that stuff, you know, because again, the more squared away you can be, I believe, physically, financially, professionally in your work, all that pays dividends down the line, right? And so you can't see it when you're younger, you know, when you're a freshman. But it's something that I drill. It's something I talk about to every client that comes through for my dog training. Is I tell them, look, in your own life and for your dog, discipline equals freedom. The more disciplined your dog is, the more they understand, the more freedoms. All of a sudden, you can take your dog to the beach, and they're not going to run away, and you're going to chase them. Then all of a sudden, you can take them more places. You can trust them in more places, because now they're disciplined enough where you have trust, and they now can make good decisions where they didn't before, right? Because they're disciplined. It's also a concept, I bring up to all kinds of people in my life whenever I have conversations with people, because some people are on a bad path, and you just tell them, look, discipline equals freedom. The more disciplined you can become, whether it's with your health, whether it's financially, educationally, professionally, the more disciplined you are, the more doors are going to open up. And the more undisciplined you are, the more doors shut, and the more confining and then closed your life becomes. So that's what I would tell my younger self. Discipline equals freedom. Understand that. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. All right, dog. Hey. Dude,
Yeah.
dude, we went all over the place.
We went all over the place.
Hardcore,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What else did we? Harleys,
Motorcycles.
fucking aliens.
We gotta do it again though, man, because we didn't get into dreams yet. So that's another big one. Yeah,
And then
because
also
I have
dog
some
training.
and you have some.
Dog
And dog
training
training. And dog training.
Okay.
So we got some other areas to cover, but we covered a lot, dude.
So what is your dog? What is? I'm gonna put your Instagram.
Okay.
How,
Yeah, Instagram,
How,
yeah.
can I promote your dog training?
Yeah. Instagram is the easiest way to find me.
Okay.
Groundwork.k9. That's letter K number 9, not the words. Groundwork.k9.
All right.
Yeah. I'll shoot it to you. I'll text it to you that way you know you have it.
Hey,
Yeah, man.
welcome to Let's See What Happens podcast.
Yeah.
You are a forever guest,
Nice.
and also welcome to the Society of the Bell Ringers. You have been initiated into both, sir. Give me a hug, dog.
I love it. I love it. That's good shit, dude. That was good shit.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me,
That was
dude.
good, dude.